Hey guys, tonight we're slipping into the kind of Roman night no history book dares to linger on. Did you know a senator could lose everything, not on the battlefield, but by sipping wine too quickly or glancing at the wrong shoulder under torchlight? Imagine your entire career undone by the way you peel a fig. Midnight politics, hidden in a dining hall. And would you survive a villa party where food winked back at you, where curtains moved without wind, and where slaves stood too still, eyes that never looked at you, but always seemed to know? Or would you end up erased before sunrise? Another footnote whispered over watered wine. Where are you watching from midnight to, or somewhere between awake and half gone? That's the strange comfort of bedtime history. You don't just hear Rome. You feel the sweat, the roses, the breath on your neck. Before we wander further, leave me a little sign in the comments. Maybe your city, maybe just the hour glowing on your clock. I love seeing how far this sleepy timeline reaches, and if you'd like to come back for the next forgotten night, a quiet like and subscribe is always welcome, like adding one more log to the fire that keeps us awake together. Now dim the lights, get comfortable, and let's step into tonight's story together. The scroll arrives when the evening's already heavy with heat. You don't fetch it. It finds you, pressed into your palm by a boy too young to know better than to linger. The wax glistens red in the lamplight, still soft from sealing, as if it has been waiting only for you. It doesn't say you're invited. It says you're required. Rome never sent invitations for fun. Your thumb hesitates over the seal. The edge of it crumbles like dried blood, leaving a stain across your skin. It looks like an omen, and perhaps it is. The message inside is short names. Time. The villa of a man who doesn't bother to explain himself. No polite greetings, no wed be delighted. Just the certainty that you will come, because not to come is the kind of absence people whisper about the next morning in the forum. You picture modern gatherings, networking mixers with lukewarm wine, the handshakes that last too long, the small talk about quarterly forecasts, uncomfortable, yes, but survivable. This feels different. A Roman summons carries weight the way a tax audit does, even if you've done nothing wrong. You already feel guilty. You catch yourself wondering whether your sandals are polished enough, whether your toga is too clean, too provincial, too obvious. You imagine walking into a room full of senators, poets, generals, people who know how to turn a compliment into a dagger, and you feel the first tug of dread. Still, you prepare. The streets cool only slightly as night settles. Stone slabs breathing out the heat they've stored since morning. Each step sticks to the leather of your sandals. The air is thick with roses wilting in the humidity, their sweetness gone sour. From a nearby tavern, someone pours out the last of their amphora, the smell of old olives bleeding into the dust. Rome doesn't hide its odours, it piles them together like trophies. You adjust your toga, suddenly aware of how stiff it feels, as though the fabric knows you don't belong where you're going. The villa rises ahead like a shadow larger than it has any right to be. Torches mark the gate, their flames bending in the breeze, and the iron hinges sigh as the doors swing open. Not a dramatic creak, not a theatrical boom, just a tired groan, as if the wood has seen too many evenings like this and resents having to see one more. Two slaves stand silently at the threshold, not looking at you, but not looking either. Their faces are masks, but their posture says they're already filing your way into the category of guests who matter very little. You clutch the scroll harder, though the wax is already cracked, already meaningless. Inside, the courtyard smells of damp stone and overripe fruit. A fountain trickles in the corner, water working hard not to be noticed. You can hear laughter beyond the walls, thin and deliberate, the kind of laughter that's meant to be overheard. Somewhere, a lyre plucks a lazy scale, each note testing the air like a finger dipped into a bath. The whole villa seems alive with anticipation, as though the walls themselves are holding their breath. Your feet make too much sound on the marble. Every step echoes, betraying you. A slave glides past with a tray of figs shaped into forms you'd rather not identify. Another adjusts a curtain, and for a moment you think it shivers on its own. The servants move like shadows rehearsed to perfection, each action designed to make you feel both welcome and replaceable. They know more than you ever will. They know who brought which lover, who poisoned which goblet, which senator is here to negotiate a province, which poet is here to barter scandal for patronage. They are the infrastructure, silent and invisible, except when they decide not to be. You glance at one, offer a nervous smile. He blinks once, then again. Slowly. It could mean nothing. It could mean everything. You look away, pretending to admire a mosaic on the floor. The tiles depict something anatomically impossible, a tangle of limbs and gods and animals that leaves you more confused than comforted. That's Rome for you, beauty and absurdity braided so tightly you can't separate them. A steward gestures to your place. You follow him through an archway into a room already thick with heat and wine, though the night has barely begun. The couches are low, angled oddly, designed less for comfort than for observation. You recline awkwardly, trying to look practiced, trying to look like you've done this before. Your elbow slips, your knee bends the wrong way, and you realize these couches are traps. No one is comfortable, but everyone pretends to be. It's part of the performance. Around you, the elite of Rome settle into their roles. A senator adjusts his tunic, careful to flash the gold clasp that proves his station. A general leans back with the confidence of a man who commands legions, though tonight he commands only the attention of whoever sits nearest. A poet recites a line to no one in particular, hoping someone overhears. Every gesture is strategy, every glance is a wager. You try to mimic their ease, but your hand trembles when you lift the cup. The first sip burns. Roman wine is stronger than the ambitions it fuels, meant to be diluted but rarely respected. It tastes like smoke, sun, and a dare you're not sure you can afford to take. Across the room, someone notices your hesitation, and you feel a dozen small judgments land on your shoulders like gnats. Too fast and you're crude, too slow and you're plotting something. There is no neutral pace, and yet, beneath the discomfort, there's a current of fascination. You realize that what looks like chaos is in fact choreography. Every seat chosen, every joke rehearsed, every platter shaped to provoke either laughter or blushes. The villa itself is a stage, and you awkward, sweating, still clutching the memory of that cracked Sela part of the show, whether you know your lines or not. The strange thing is how familiar it feels. You've been here before, in your own world, not in togas, not by torchlight, but in conference rooms where deals are struck over too bitter coffee, in late-night meetups where favours are whispered, in networking events where one careless remark follows you for years. The costumes change, the stakes remain. Rome is only an older version of the same game. You lean back, finally, letting the cushions take you, though they sag like they resent your weight. The lyre picks up a new rhythm. The fountain outside sputters, a reminder that even stone has to breathe. You are here now, drawn into the pulse of the evening, a reluctant guest at a banquet that is less about pleasure than survival. Somewhere in the villa, the curtain stirs though no wind moves. You pretend not to notice. For the first time tonight, you accept the truth this isn't dinner, it's theatre, it's trial, it's Rome testing whether you belong or whether you'll be remembered only as the man who held his goblet wrong. The fountain greets you first, not with grandeur, not with the roar of water meant to impress, but with a timid trickle that sounds almost embarrassed to be overheard. It hides in the corner of the courtyard, whispering against the stone basin as though trying to wash its hands of whatever the villa is about to host. Each drop falls in its own time, plink, 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 like a clock measuring out the evening in liquid seconds. You can't help but feel that the fountain is marking not just the hours, but your survival. Every drop is a tally. You pause there, too long perhaps, your eyes caught in the shimmer of torchlight on water. In that moment you feel watched, not by the host, not yet, but by the people who are not supposed to matter. Slaves move around you, never colliding, never faltering, their footsteps softer than moth wings. They drift as if rehearsed, their tasks invisible until the exact instant they're needed. One adjusts the drapery, tugging a fold of linen into a curve so precise it looks like it was measured with geometry. Another places figs onto a silver tray, each one polished until it gleams like wet stone. None of them speak. None of them acknowledge you, and yet the silence feels louder than a speech. There's something unsettling about people who move like shadows. They never make eye contact, never address you directly, but you feel them absorbing every detail, your awkward gait, the way you clutch your toga, the nervous glance you gave the fountain. They are taking notes. And in Rome, the ones who notice are often more powerful than the ones who command. You think about your own world, the assistants at conferences, the staff at galas, the waiters who hear everything. They're not scenery, they're the archives, and they never forget. You glance at one of them, a boy balancing a tray heavy with honey cakes. He doesn't falter, doesn't break stride, but for the briefest flicker he blinks twice. Slow, deliberate. It's a message you don't understand, and you decide you don't want to. You turn your head toward the walls instead, pretending to admire the mosaics. But the mosaics aren't safe either. Under the wavering torchlight, they seem to move. A lion devours a stag, but the stag's eyes look too human. A god reclines, surrounded by attendants, but his limbs bend in ways no body should. A dancer arches backward, her spine curved like a bowstring, but her face is twisted in a grimace that looks more like pain than ecstasy. You blink, and the images flatten back into stone. But the memory lingers. Rome doesn't decorate to please, it decorates to remind. To remind you that beauty and horror can share the same marble. Music drifts in from another room, soft notes plucked from a lyre. At first, it sounds like background, like the gentle hum of an air conditioner in a modern office. But the longer you listen, the more deliberate it feels. Each string vibrates with intent, like a throat clearing, like someone practicing their entrance. The melody doesn't soothe, it teases. You know the evening hasn't begun, but the music insists that it has. You shift your weight, and the marble under your sandals answers with a hollow echo. It doesn't belong to you, it belongs to the villa. You are a trespasser, tolerated only because the wax seal commanded you here. The slaves move around you without acknowledgement, like you are another piece of furniture dragged in for the night. You are not one of them, not one of the hosts, not one of the chosen few. You are an object temporarily granted a role. The fountain keeps dripping. Plink, plink, plink. It begins to sound like a countdown. You wonder how many drops will fall before someone decides whether you are useful or disposable. A breeze stirs the drapery. Too deliberate, too controlled to be natural. One curtain flutters, the folds catching torchlight and shadow so that for a heartbeat it looks like a figure standing behind the linen. You hold your breath, but when you look directly, there's nothing there, only fabric swaying as though it remembers a presence that just departed. A slave steps forward, adjusts the curtain back into place, and moves on without meeting your eye. Your mouth is dry. You crave water, but the fountain mocks you with its dripping, reminding you that nothing here is meant to quench. Everything is symbolic. The fruit is arranged as metaphor, the curtains staged as possibility, even the silence designed to provoke your unease. You've been in boardrooms like this, though you never admitted it at the time, places where the air hums with secrets, where everyone performs, where every gesture is calculated. The villa is just another stage, older and more extravagant, but built on the same rules. You take another step forward, and the sound seems to ring too loud, bouncing between the columns. A few guests in the distance glance your way, their expressions unreadable. They don't smile, don't frown, they simply observe, the way one observes a horse being led into an arena, curious, but detached, waiting to see how it performs. You're not sure whether they expect you to impress them or amuse them, but you already feel the weight of judgment. The music changes key. A ripple of anticipation runs through the slaves, though their faces stay blank. One straightens a platter, another refills a goblet that wasn't empty. A third smooths the surface of a cushion that hasn't been touched. The choreography is invisible until you notice it, and once you do, you can't stop noticing. This isn't improvisation. It's rehearsal perfected over hundreds of nights, a ritual as binding as any prayer. You realize, with a chill, that the evening isn't starting now, it has been happening long before you walk through the gate. You are late to the play, stepping into a scene already in motion. The fountain drips again. Plink, plink, plink. The sound seems louder now, sharper, as though echoing inside your own skull. You picture each drop carving into the marble, a slow erosion, a reminder that time is not on your side. The slaves pass around you like phantoms, their faces unmarked by age or expression. They could be anywhere from 14 to 40, and you realize you'll never know, because no one here bothers to record their years. They exist outside the calendar, outside the weight of memory. yet they are the only ones who will remember everything you do tonight. The torch nearest you flickers, its flame bending low, and for an instant you think it's about to gutter out. The shadows swell, thickening in the corners of the courtyard. The music stutters, then resumes. The flame recovers, nothing has happened, and yet your pulse races as though you've just been spared. The fountain drips again. Plink, plink, plink. You begin to suspect that it isn't measuring the night at all. It's measuring you. The couch looks harmless until you try to own it. Low and long, upholstered in something that squeaks like a guilty conscience. It asks you to recline on your left elbow, to arrange your legs just so, to pretend that this posture is natural. You lower yourself, and the cushion sags at a treacherous angle, sliding your hip an inch farther than your spine is willing to follow. Your knee complains. Your elbow hunts for a ridge that isn't there. The couch is a handshake you can't get right, and it betrays you before anyone else has to. You tell yourself to breathe. Left forearm down, palm open, shoulder loose. You watched everyone else do this as if they were born with it, a senator melting into upholstery, a general pouring himself into the curve as easily as he once poured troops through a mountain pass. You copy the geometry and miss the grace. A slave appears without sound and rescues your cup from your uncertain hand, filling it to the rim, then tilting it back to a level that says, "Careful, the room is watching." The cup returns to you warm from his fingers. Your wrist tilts anyway. The wine leans toward your toga, a quiet red threat, then steadies as you pretend it was always under control. Across the room, a practiced half-smile flickers. Not mockery, something cooler. Assessment. Your forced smile answers, and your cheeks feel like they've joined a union and gone on strike. You dart a look at your neighbours. One man reclines as if he invented furniture. Another looks carved into his couch, ankles crossed in a way that suggests he owns roads, aqueducts, and the patience of the gods. A woman across from you holds a fig by the stem and peels it with a thumbnail, each curl of skin falling like a measured opinion. No one is comfortable. Everyone is fluent. The music shifts. A lyre walking up a scale like a nervous intern approaching a podium. Notes hang in the air, testing the ceiling, dripping back down to your ear with the confidence of someone who knows the answer key. Behind you, the fountain keeps time plink, plink, plink liquid seconds, counting not the hour, but your ability to hold a pose. Every drop insists that posture is policy, that balance is law. Your elbow slides a fraction, the couch inhales, you make a micro-correction, as if returning a slice of dignity to where it belongs, and the cushion breathes out again, slowly, pettily, like it has opinions about you. The fabric scratches your forearm, a whisper of rough thread that leaves a thin red line you'll discover later. The chair, no. The couch betrays you 3 times in a minute and looks innocent after each crime. You steady your cup with 2 fingers. Careful, economical, a gesture you've used in boardrooms and bars and every late-night meet-up where you've tried to look like you weren't counting exits. The wine swirls and stops. You angle your body so the low table is an ally, not an enemy. So the platter of olives acts as a breakwater if disaster decides to spill over your rim. The room is a sea. You're a small boat. The couch is both tide and reef. A steward leans in with a platter, and the couch chooses that moment to sink half an inch. Your elbow dips. The cup nods toward the platter, a crimson greeting. A single drop leaps free, lands on the silver lip, and clings there like a scandal trying to happen. The steward tilts the tray, catches the droplet on the fig leaf garnish, and retreats without looking at you. It is a rescue and a warning the villa cleans its own messes, but it never forgets who made them. People talk. They speak in the Roman register that sounds like laughter, but carries numbers and maps inside it. Provinces are weighed next to pairs. A shipping contract hides beneath a joke about weather. A rumour about a governor's daughter arrives wrapped in a compliment about her sandals. Every sentence belongs to 2 audiences, the one that laughs and the one that listens. You belong to the second group tonight. The first group hasn't decided whether to admit you. Your back finds a compromise with the curve. It is not comfort. It is Dante. You stack a cushion where your ribs threaten mutiny, and the slave who placed it there lets his hand hover for a fraction too long, calibrating the altitude of your dignity. He steps away, and you wonder if his ledger has a column for needs watching. Your breathing evens. The couch, annoyed that you solved one of its puzzles, tries another. Your foot slides off the stool. Your ankle knocks a wooden brace. The sound is small, but the room notices everything. Heads don't turn, nostrils do. You swallow. The wine carries smoke and afternoon sun and the faint taste of a dare. You chase it with a breath that smells like crushed rosemary and warmed leather. The mosaics along the base of the couch depict a god reclined in impossible perfection. One elbow on nothing, his weight distributed across geometry that doesn't exist in human anatomy. He looks down your line of sight and smirks. He is the patron saint of people who make this look easy. You resist the urge to hate a piece of stone. Across from you, another guest adjusts his belt with the careless authority of ownership. He lets his cup lean, dangerously, then brings it back at the last second, a performance he has done so often it probably has a name. The people near him offer the kind of small approval you can only earn by risking fabrics. A poet at his elbow scratches a note into a wax tablet, eyes moving between you and the man with the flourish. Somewhere in that neat line, you are a comparison. The room's heat settles on your shoulders like a cloak, heavy but oddly stabilizing. You find a rhythm, breathe, shift, sip, still. The couch learns you, or you learn it, or the line between the two blurs enough that the betrayals become less dramatic. Your elbow stops sliding. Your wrist remembers a neutral angle. Your smile softens into something that doesn't feel like a hostage situation. This is not comfort. This is competence pretending to be comfort. In your world, it has always been enough. A soft laugh lands near your ear, not at you round you. Two voices pass a plate and an opinion overhead, and you can feel both things graze your hair. You nod as if included, contributing a silence that can be read as agreement. The couch approves of silence. It likes people who move at the speed of gravity and say only what gravity allows. You and the furniture sign a ceasefire with your shoulders. The fountain keeps counting. Plink, plink, plink. The notes of the lyre rearrange themselves into a prelude you can almost predict, the way you can tell when a meeting is about to become an ask. The torches lift their flames a little, and the room's shadows tighten like belts at a feast. Somewhere, a curtain inhales. Somewhere else, politics clears its throat. You shift an inch. The couch lets you. For the first time tonight, it doesn't try to make you pay for the movement. You wonder if that's victory or a trick. You've known rooms like this too long to relax when the chair finally behaves. Chairs behave when they think you've stopped noticing. An olive pit cracks under someone's tooth. A laugh knifes through the heat. Your cup steadies in your hand like it belongs there. The lyre pauses, then flicks a single bright note that lands on the surface of your wine. Your reflection shivers and holds. You recline, perfectly imperfect, and let the furniture betray someone else for a while. The cup waits in your hand like a test you never studied for. Full, heavy, balanced at the rim with a liquid so dark it might as well be ink. Torchlight coils through the surface, and for a moment you see your face staring back, distorted, stretched, and sweating more than you want to admit. The steward pours without asking. He knows how much you should have. He knows when your hand trembles. He knows who drinks diluted and who pretends not to. The cup is refilled the instant it sinks below half, as if thirst itself would be considered impolite. You realize the truth: this isn't wine, it's measurement. Each swallow is a calculation. Each sip writes your reputation in the ledger only the slaves keep. Around you, the room exhales into its ritual. The first toast always arrives disguised as small talk. A senator clears his throat, not too loudly, just enough that people stop pretending to converse. He raises his cup, wrist loose, elbow confident, and delivers a line that could be poetry, policy, or just an excuse to make everyone else drink. The others raise their cups in rhythm, not a sound of glass against glass. Romans would never waste the gesture. Just the sight of everyone acknowledging that they too are willing to be judged. Your lips are dry. You imagine your tongue sticking to the rim, the way a bad speech clings to its own pauses. The wine smells like smoke and ripe plums, a sweetness that promises kindness and a strength that denies it. Someone once said Roman wine could outlast a siege. Tonight, it will test whether you can outlast a sentence. You try a cautious sip. The fire climbs your throat with the eagerness of a soldier storming a gate. It burns, it smoulders, it lingers until your eyes want to water. Across the couch, a general watches with the expression of a man who has seen entire provinces fail endurance tests. He doesn't smile. He doesn't frown. He just notes it. The way a hawk notes the tremor of a mouse. The senator who offered the toast drains his cup in one tilt, as though emptying it is the simplest of tasks. Others follow with varying degrees of grace. Some toss the wine back with soldierly brutality. Others linger over it like lovers, savouring each gulp as if the air itself might applaud. You, cautious, set your cup down half full. The cushion shifts beneath your elbow. The wine sloshes. A drop leaps to the rim, threatening your toga like a lawsuit hovering over a contract. No one laughs, but no one needs to. You feel the collective notice, the subtle tightening of shoulders nearby, the glance you pretend you don't see. Too careful, and you're weak. Too eager, and you're vulgar. The sweet spot is invisible, a pace that suggests confidence without arrogance, appetite without desperation. It's an Olympic sport, except the prize is not a laurel crown but survival at tomorrow's gossip. Another toast rises, this one from a poet whose hair looks like it hasn't met water in months. He raises his cup with theatrical flair, recites a rhyme that pairs Jupiter with supper, and drinks deep enough that his words slur before the next stanza. The table laughs, some politely, some genuinely. You laugh too, hoping it reads as solidarity and not relief. The wine returns to you. The steward's hand is there before you can protest, tilting the jug with a surgeon's precision, pouring strength into your cup that feels like a trap disguised as generosity. The surface trembles. You lift it again, this time with a steadier hand, and commit to a longer drink. It scorches. It sears. It whispers that it could hollow you out if you let it. Somewhere in the haze you hear your own voice laugh. Perhaps it even sounds convincing. Rumour says drinking Roman wine straight, undiluted, is a declaration, not of courage, of madness. The kind of madness that makes statues blush and senators whisper. Someone once drank it neat and proposed to a marble Venus, insisting she had smiled first. The story still circulates, and no one remembers his name. Only the statue's refusal. That's the warning in every amphora: too much honesty in one gulp, and your history. Not guessed. You breathe. The cup lowers. Your throat still burns. The fountain in the courtyard plinks again, measuring your endurance. A drop, a second, a judgment. The room sways, not with your dizziness, but with anticipation, waiting to see if you'll fail the balance between sobriety and surrender. You place the cup on the low table. The cushion steadies. Your hand steadies. For the moment, the test is passed, but you know there will be another toast, and another after that. Each one sharper, each one riskier, each one a rope stretched thinner than the last. Tonight, wine is not about thirst. It's about whether you can drown gracefully without letting anyone see you flail. And Rome, ever generous, will keep filling your cup until the villa decides your story has an ending. The villa breathes through them. You realise this only after the first hour, after the couches have swallowed half the guests, after the wine has burned its way across the room. The slaves move in silence, but not absence. They are the bloodstream, the nervous system, the invisible hands that hold the evening together. Without them, the torches would choke, the platters would rot, the toasts would hang unanswered. Rome congratulates itself on elegance, but it runs on the backs of people who are not allowed to exist except as shadows. They glide past you, trays balanced with precision that would shame an engineer. On one, grapes have been carved into the shapes of a little bird's beak, sharp, wings spread, mid-flight. On another, fish are arranged to look like a spiral galaxy, their silver scales catching the torchlight as if mocking the stars. Nothing is presented simply. Every dish is a performance, and the performers are the people no one speaks to. One pauses by your couch, lowering a tray of olives. His eyes never meet yours. They slide across your shoulder, your hand, the tremor in your fingers as you lift the cup. Then they move on, efficient, untroubled, as though cataloguing you into a ledger only he will ever read. You wonder how many reputations he has already ruined simply by remembering, because they do remember. They must. They see the senator who boasts too loudly, the general who drinks too quickly, the poet who lets his hand wander beneath the tablecloth. They see the host's wife slip behind a curtain, and the guest who follows 2 minutes later. They see who whispers, who bargains, who trembles. They cannot repeat it, but silence doesn't mean forgetfulness. The villa keeps its history inside the eyes of its slaves. It strikes you then. With a shiver you try to disguise as a stretch they are the walls. The painted mosaics might crumble, the marble might crack, but the people carrying trays and wine jugs, those are the archives. Rome thinks it builds its stories into stone, but stone doesn't listen. People do. People with no permission to speak, but every reason to remember. The walls of this villa hear everything, and they walk among you. A platter of honey cakes passes. One tips, just slightly, the syrup glistening like spilled gold. The slave corrects it with the tiniest flick of his wrist. So subtle you wonder if you imagined the imbalance. You didn't. It was a test, a reminder that even sweetness has weight. You meet his eyes without meaning to. They are dark, steady, expressionless. But you feel a sentence unspoken. We are the walls. The walls hear you. Empathy surprises you. It sneaks in under the sweat and the awkwardness, because you know what it is to be invisible in a room full of power. You've sat at tables where decisions were made, and the waiters caught more truth than the minutes ever recorded. You've watched assistants take notes, not just of action items, but of human weakness. You've worked in offices where the janitor knew more about the company than the CEO. Power rarely notices who is listening until it's too late. And yet, dread follows empathy like a shadow. These people are not free. Their silence isn't discretion, it's a sentence. They cannot act on what they know. Or maybe they can, just not directly. Information leaks in ways Rome never admits. A whispered detail becomes a bargain. A mistake becomes a story told to the wrong ear. Survival means letting secrets drip like the fountain in the courtyard plink. Plink. Plink slow, steady, inevitable. You glance again at the mosaics. The lion devouring the stag looks less mythic now, more documentary. It isn't the lion you should watch, it's the artist who remembered the stag's terrified eye. Someone recorded that detail because someone saw it. Someone who wasn't supposed to matter. The music carries on, soft but insistent. The lyre strings bending into minor tones. Conversation layers itself over the notes boasts. Bargains. Laughter pitched a little too high. All of it floats in the air as though safe. But the room is filled with walls that breathe. The man refilling your cup has already filed away your careful sip, your hesitant laugh, the way you adjusted your cushion as if fighting with furniture. He won't tell you what it means. He doesn't have to. He knows. The dread grows when you realize the imbalance. You will forget his face tomorrow, maybe even tonight. He will not forget yours. He cannot. That's how memory works when your survival depends on it. You don't know his name. He knows every detail of your posture, your voice, your weakness. Empathy flickers again because you want to ask him what he remembers. You want to ask what it feels like to be the archive of everyone else's failures, but the dread silences you. Rome doesn't allow that kind of question. You steady your cup and pretend the wine isn't turning heavier by the sip. Across the room, laughter erupts at something you didn't hear. It dies quickly, like a curtain pulled shut. The slaves don't laugh. They only move. They are the rhythm of the evening, the hidden metronome beneath every gesture. The fountain drips again. Plink, plink, plink. Time is passing. Secrets are accumulating. The villa is filling with words that will never be spoken out loud. You breathe in the sweetness of figs and the salt of sweat, and you feel both empathy and dread press against your ribs. You're drinking with Rome, but Rome is drinking with itself. And the walls, those silent, listening walls, will remember every drop. The first platter lands in front of you like a dare. It is not food. It is theatre disguised as nourishment. A roasted boar stretches across the silver, its hide lacquered to a shine, its mouth jammed with fruit in places that make you look away too quickly. Grapes spill out from wounds carved with surgical precision. Citrus slices are arranged where no citrus belongs. The animal's eyes are glazed over, but the torchlight paints them wet, so it stares at you even now, long after its death. The slaves set it down gently, almost reverently, as though delivering an oracle. You glance at the others. No one looks shocked. They nod. They smirk. They pick at the symbolism as if it were seasoning. The host raises a goblet and praises the cook. Everyone claps politely. as though the spectacle is an expected part of the evening, as normal as a handshake at a board meeting. You catch yourself holding your breath. The smell is heavy, a sweet rot of roasted meat tangled with figs and honey. It clings to your throat like debt. You sip your wine to clear it, but the wine only deepens the flavour, pushing it deeper into your chest. Around the table, hands reach out with feigned indifference. A senator lifts a slice of pear balanced on pork fat. A woman places a sliver of the boar into her mouth without chewing, eyes steady, daring anyone to interpret it. More platters arrive, each one a joke told with too much confidence. A basket of figs shaped into Venus, complete with curves carved in pastry detail. You hesitate to reach for one, but the fruit seems to notice you. Torchlight dances across the glossy skin, and for an instant, you could swear one of them winks. You blink hard, shake your head, and remind yourself that hunger does not create hallucinations. Rome does. A tray of oysters follows, spiraled into patterns that suggest more than seashells. They glisten, slick with brine, and the guest beside you eats one with theatrical slowness, lips parting like a line rehearsed too many times. The applause is quieter this time, but it is there. Even consumption has an audience here, and then the bread arrives. Loaves shaped in forms that mock restraint arches, curves, coils that require explanation. You tear a piece, desperate for something ordinary, but even the crumb is perfumed with herbs so sharp they sting your nose. A poet across from you laughs, says something about how even bread should seduce. You force a smile, the kind that says you understand the joke, though you don't. The irony piles on with the honey cakes. They shimmer as though dusted with gold. You reach for one and the syrup stretches, a strand snapping back to the tray like a leash. When you bite, the sweetness is overwhelming, cloying, more punishment than pleasure. It tastes like the empire itself too much, too rich, impossible to finish. You notice the slaves again. They carry these grotesque offerings with perfect calm, their faces unreadable. Do they see the absurdity? Do they laugh to themselves when no one is looking? Or do they resent being forced to parade metaphors instead of meals? You catch the eye of one boy balancing a platter of pears carved into doves. For a second, his lips twitch, a smile, a grimace. You'll never know. He lowers the tray, vanishes into the background, and the fruit sits there like a riddle. Disgust grows in your gut, but so does recognition. This isn't food, it's messaging. A roast is not roasted to feed, it is roasted to display control, abundance, dominance over scarcity. The figs shaped like goddesses remind everyone that pleasure is not just indulgence, but power. The oysters, the bread, the honey, all of it says, we can afford excess, and you cannot afford to ignore us. It reminds you of banquets you've attended in your own time. Corporate dinners where the steak is less about taste and more about signalling. Plates served not for hunger, but for hierarchy. Bottles uncorked not because anyone wanted another glass, but because someone needed to prove they could. You've seen it before, but never so literal. Here, the food mocks you openly. A senator bites into a pear shaped like a dove, and juice runs down his chin. He wipes it away with the back of his hand, laughing, daring the room to question his sloppiness. They laugh with him. That's the joke, no matter how ridiculous the performance. Status is what makes it acceptable. The fountain plinks outside. The sound of water, honest and unadorned, trickles into your ear, mocking the spectacle. You find yourself longing for it, for something simple, clean, untainted by meaning. But the villa will not give you that. Every bite here is a negotiation, every swallow a verdict. Another tray arrives, this one of pastries twisted into shapes so obscene you stare at the floor instead. A senator leans close and murmurs, "Eat, or it eats you." You don't know if he's joking. You don't ask. You take a piece, chew carefully, and let the dough crumble like a bad decision between your teeth. The motif becomes clear. The food is laughing at you, the figs wink, the bread curves, the oysters gleam. Every dish is a reminder that you're not here to eat. You're here to watch yourself be consumed by Rome's appetite for power. You sip your wine again, desperate to rinse the taste of irony from your mouth. It doesn't work. The wine tastes of smoke and fruit and someone else's ambition. The boar stares, the cakes glisten, the guests laugh. and you, caught in the middle, feel your stomach tighten with the knowledge that the night has only begun its feast. The food has barely settled when the music shifts. The lyre, timid and ornamental until now, sharpens into something deliberate. The rhythm is still slow, but there's intent behind it, like a throat clearing before a speech. A hush spreads across the room, not demanded, but expected, the way night falls without asking permission. Everyone knows the next act. Everyone but you. The curtain near the far wall stirs. A figure emerges, and at first you think the torchlight has created a mirage. She is slick with oil, her skin glistening as though gravity has less hold on her than it does on anyone else. Silk clings to her frame, but barely more suggestion than garment, fluttering like it might fall away if she breathed too hard. She moves as though joints are optional, as though her bones were replaced with melted bronze. The guests murmur approval. You hear a poet sigh as if he's just discovered a new meter. You shift on your couch, which immediately betrays you with another slide of fabric. You don't dare correct yourself. Movement would look like eagerness. Instead, you let the discomfort dig into your ribs. The dancer bends backward until her hair sweeps the floor. Someone claps once, sharply, and she freezes, then rises again in one smooth arc, now mimicking an eagle, arms spread, fingers curled into talons. Is it mythological? Is it allegory? Or is it just an excuse to watch her move? You don't know. And worse, you suspect no one else does either. But they cheer anyway, as though decoding meaning where none exists. The smell of oil thickens the air, mixing with meat and wine until the room feels saturated with heat. The fountain outside plinks again, defiant in its plainness, while inside everything gleams and burns. The next performer is a man with a lute and a grin too wide for comfort. He sings an ode to Venus that rhymes love with dove and above, each verse punctuated with hip thrusts that make the senators laugh like boys sneaking out of lessons. You clap along, though it feels wrong, the way clapping at a funeral would. The man bows low, nearly falling into a guest lap, and the applause rises again. Then comes the juggler. He begins with fruit easy, safe, the kind of trick you've seen in marketplaces, then knives, then something you're fairly sure was outlawed in Athens. The crowd gasps, but the gasps sound rehearsed, like lines in a play. You laugh nervously, nearly choking on the almond you'd been nibbling. The cushion beneath you seems to snicker, and then the curtain parts again. This time it's not one figure but three, crowned with laurel wreaths, draped in sheets meant to suggest divinity. You recognize the myth instantly, or think you do. The abduction of Ganymede, Jupiter's eagle carrying off the beautiful boy. A classic story, immortalized in sculpture and verse. But here, the eagle's wings are a pair of painted props held by a man in a horse mask. The boy is not a boy, but a woman, sighing dramatically as she's lifted. The god is too drunk to stand straight. So another performer props him up from behind. What should be solemn, cosmic, eternal has been rewritten as parody, sweaty and loud, complete with moaning that borders on farce. The audience roars, some laugh until their faces redden, others clap in rhythm, encouraging the spectacle to go further. You want to look away, but you realize that looking away is its own kind of insult, so you keep your gaze steady, as though observing an ancient rite, while inside your mind scrambles to reconcile mythology with slapstick. One senator leans toward you, his breath sour with wine, and mutters, "Better than Homer." Hey, his laugh sprays droplets onto your shoulder. You nod weakly, offering the kind of smile you'd give a client whose joke could cost you money if you didn't laugh. The performance escalates. Laurel wreaths slip, silk sheets tangle. The horse mask falls sideways so the man inside is half horse, half sheepish grin. The moaning rises to a crescendo, then collapses abruptly when one performer trips on a cushion and falls flat on the mosaic floor. The crowd erupts half in laughter, half in applause. You clap too, palms stinging, desperate to seem part of the room and not against it. The flute player in the corner sighs audibly, as though exhausted by years of this. You sympathize. The show ends not with a bow, but with a shrug. The performers vanish behind the curtain, and the guests settle back into their couches, as though nothing out of the ordinary has happened. Conversation resumes at once politics, gossip, wagers on the next act. No one mentions the absurdity. That's the point. Rome isn't embarrassed by its fan fiction. It thrives on it. The parody becomes ritual because repetition makes anything sacred. You drain the last of your cup and set it down carefully, terrified of spilling. The cushion sighs beneath you again. The fountain plinks outside, indifferent. You lean back, wondering whether the gods ever intended their stories to be reduced to innuendo and horse masks. And then you remember in Rome, intent doesn't matter. Only performance does. The curtain stirs once more, promising another act. The room holds its breath, and you, trapped between awe and disgust, realize the night has no intention of letting you go quietly. The room doesn't quiet after the parody it sharpens. The laughter fades into whispers, and the air changes texture, less like theatre smoke and more like static before a storm. You sense it first in your skin, in the way the hairs on your arms lift as if listening. Then you notice the eyes, everywhere. Glances move faster than words. They dart across the room like daggers dressed in silk. One senator lowers his gaze toward the host's wife. Just a flicker, barely more than a blink. Another tilts his head and lets his eyes linger too long on a general's cup. The general responds with a slow smile that shows no teeth, the kind of smile that promises nothing but threatens everything. You try to look casual, but the couches betray you again. The cushion dips as you shift, and suddenly your shoulder is bare where your toga should have draped. You tug at the fabric, but the movement only draws attention. A pair of eyes whose you can't tell look onto the glimpse of skin. The gaze is heavy, pinning you where you sit, as if someone has just placed a hand on your chest without touching you. You hold your breath until the eyes release you. Across from you, a woman peels a fig, slowly, deliberately. Her thumbnail digs into the skin, curling it back in a spiral that seems to last longer than the music itself. The fruit's scent, sweet and damp, fills the space between you. She doesn't look at the fig. She looks at someone else, a senator reclined 2 couches away. He raises his eyebrows the tiniest fraction, and suddenly the fruit is not fruit anymore. It's a message, a dare. You wonder if you were meant to notice. You wonder if everyone was. Because now other guests are peeling fruit. 2 grapes split with fingernails, pomegranates twisted open until seeds scatter like rubies. Each gesture is slow, studied, and suggestive, a language you don't speak but can feel in your stomach. The dread in you grows because it's not just erotist, it's tactical. Every glance, every peeled fig, every exposed shoulder is both invitation and threat. A senator's wife might smile at a poet, but the poet's patron is watching. A general might brush his hand across a young man's arm, but his rival notices the hesitation. Nothing here is private. Even intimacy is public property. The motif becomes unbearable eyes locking and unlocking, fastening you in place. Your own eyes betray you when they wander toward the curtain, wondering what waits behind it. Immediately, someone notices. A man 2 seats away lifts his cup as though to toast, but his eyes mock you. He saw your curiosity. He filed it away. It reminds you of networking rooms back home, where eye contact is currency, where one glance across a crowded bar decides a contract's future, where everyone pretends not to notice who's watching whom, but everyone notices. You think of those moments when you shook hands with one man but looked at another. Rome does the same thing, only louder, only sharper. The fountain drips outside us, plink, plink, plink. Each drop another reminder that silence is temporary, that glances are clocks as well as weapons. You imagine the slaves counting not the drops but the eyes, mapping the web of looks like surveyors of invisible roads. They must know by now who wants whom, who fears whom, who pretends not to notice but does. A guest leans closer, his breath hot with wine. He says nothing, but his eyes trace the line of your jaw before slipping away again. It is not attraction, it is appraisal, as though he's weighing your worth against the cost of wasting a glance. You shift back, and the couch creaks, betraying you once more. The sound draws more eyes. You feel them prickling at your skin, a dozen invisible hands testing your reactions. The music is complicit. The lyre plucks softer now, slower. Each note stretched so that silence fills the gaps like breath between kisses. It sets a rhythm for the room, and the glances follow it. Eyes rise and fall in time, gaze to cup, gaze to shoulder, gaze to fruit. You want to close your eyes, but that would be suicide. Closed eyes here mean surrender, mean consent to whatever role the villa wants to cast you in. The woman with the fig finally finishes peeling. She holds up the strip of skin, twirls it once in her fingers, and drops it onto the floor. A slave sweeps it away instantly, but not before the senator across the room smirks. The curtain stirs at the same moment, just slightly, as though the villa itself has acknowledged the exchange. You laugh, too loud, trying to break the tension. A few heads turn. Someone smiles politely, but it's the kind of smile that stores your mistake for later. You sip your wine to cover it, but the liquid burns hotter than before, as if punishing you for the lie. The fountain drips again. Plink, plink, plink. The sound is a mercy, grounding you while the eyes of Rome turn people into prey. You breathe in the scent of figs, oil, and sweat, and you realize the dread is not that someone might touch you. The dread is that they wouldn't need to. In this room, a look can ruin you faster than a blade. The curtains are not barriers, they are invitations stitched from linen. You realize this when the first pair disappears behind them, too casual to be an accident, too deliberate to be ignored. The fabric sways a moment longer than it should, rippling with a memory of the bodies that brushed past, and then stills as if nothing happened. Conversation at the couches continues without pause. No one acknowledges the absence. That silence is the rule. The torches flicker, shadows stretching long across the floor mosaics. A gust of air sneaks in through the open courtyard, and the curtains stir again, but this time without anyone passing. For a heartbeat they swell outward, ghostly, as though someone exhaled from the other side. You wait to see who emerges. No one does. Your wine is suddenly too heavy in your hand. You sip anyway, hoping the burn will distract you. It doesn't. It only sharpens your awareness of how every guest seems comfortable with the fabric's mutinies. For them, the curtains are not ominous, they are opportunity. A general smirks when a young man vanishes behind one, followed moments later by a senator's wife. No one dares to laugh, but the corners of mouths twitch. Rome understands implication better than evidence. You lean back, adjusting your cushion, and your elbow slips again. The couch groans, an accomplice to your unease. Eyes glance in your direction, not many, but enough to remind you you're being measured. The curtain nearest you stirs once more, a beckoning gesture. The folds shimmer in the torchlight like water, as if stepping through them would feel less like walking and more like drowning. A woman emerges from behind one, hair loosened, cheeks flushed, a faint scratch down her neck. She doesn't look embarrassed. She looks victorious. She returns to her couch, accepts her wine, and smiles as though nothing at all has happened. Her neighbour leans close, whispers something, and both of them laugh quietly. The curtain behind her lies flat, innocent, denying any role in her altered state. But then, another man goes in, time stretches, the fountain outside drips plink, plink, plink. The fabric stirs once, twice, and then grows still. Minutes pass. Conversation moves on. Plates are cleared, cups refilled. He does not return. No one remarks on it. You glance toward the curtain again and imagine the mosaic floors behind it. The shadows. The sound of breathing too faint to reach your ears. You wonder if the villa itself has swallowed him. Your stomach tightens. In your world, curtains mean privacy, keep, temporary, reversible. Here, they mean transformation. You go in as one person, you return as another, or you don't return at all. You picture office doors, hotel lobbies, the places where deals and mistakes share the same walls. Curtains are just the Roman version of those rooms, softer but more merciless. The lyre shifts key, softer now, minor notes bending into something mournful. It underscores the curtains like a soundtrack, a warning disguised as ambience. A poet raises his cup and murmurs lines about Jupiter and secrets, but his words slur, and the meaning is lost in laughter. Still, you hear enough to know he, too, has noticed the vanishing. You shift again, careful this time, but the cushion betrays you with another sigh. You glance away from the curtain, force yourself to study the mosaic nearest your feet. It shows a banquet, not unlike this one, men reclining, women dancing, servants bearing trays, but in the corner of the scene, One figure is half inside a painted curtain, his face erased by time. You blink, unsettled. Did the artist mean it, or has age completed the metaphor for him? Another gust moves the linen. This time you think you see a shape behind it. Tall, hunched, unmoving. Your heart kicks against your ribs. You blink, and the shape is gone. Perhaps it was only shadow, only the folds themselves bending under the draft. But you can't shake the feeling that the villa is watching you watch it, testing your nerve. You swallow the last of your wine, set the cup down too firmly. The sound echoes louder than intended. A few heads turn, but they don't linger. You exhale, trying to disguise the tremor in your chest as irritation at the furniture. The fountain drips again. Plink, plink, plink. Each drop heavier than the last, as though water itself is counting down to your turn. The curtains are not walls, they are thresholds. Everyone knows it. Some return flushed and laughing, some never return. And Rome, cruel and amused, will pretend not to notice either outcome. You keep your eyes fixed on your cup, but in your peripheral vision the linen stirs again, quiet as breath, waiting for you to look. The curtains are never just about lust. You learn this when the whispers start drifting back into the main hall. They slide out like smoke, carrying pieces of strategy dressed as laughter, alliances hidden inside sighs. The villa is not a brothel, not even a theatre, it's a trading floor. The currency here is skin and silence, traded in equal measure. Someone emerges from the linen with a smile too precise to be passion. He smooths his toga, accepts a refill of wine, and scribbles something onto a wax tablet balanced on his knee. The stylus digs too hard, the letters crooked, the surface already smeared with drops of watered wine. It looks sloppy, but no one cares. Everyone here understands the point. That tablet is worth more than the boar that fed 50 people. It is a province, or a contract, or the death of a rival, and all it cost was a few minutes behind a curtain. You glance at the tablet as it passes by names, numbers, half a sketch of a map before the man shields it with his elbow. He doesn't need to hide it from you. He hides it from the people who already know. The irony is sharp enough to sting in Rome. Politics isn't done in the Senate. It's done on couches and in beds. The room vibrates with a new energy. The glances from earlier have turned into negotiations. Shoulders lean too close. Words fall too softly, and hands brush as though by accident. But nothing here is accidental. A senator pours wine for a general with exaggerated care, and the general accepts it with a nod that says more than a treaty. The curtain flutters again, swallowing another pair, and the music from the lyre seems to falter mid-note as if embarrassed. Your own couch shifts beneath you. The cushion sighs, the wine in your cup trembles, and you realize you're sitting on the same stage as everyone else, whether you act or not. Your role is smaller, yes, but it is still written into the play. Someone leans close, not to you but to your neighbor, whispering through a smile. You hear only fragments: grain shipment governors, daughter 2 cohorts by spring. The words slice the air like knives hidden under velvet. It reminds you too much of things you've seen in your own world. The after-hours mixer at a hotel bar where everyone claims to be off-duty, but every joke carries a sum inside it. The late-night coffee with a potential investor who laughs at your story but listens harder to your hesitation. The corporate retreat where wine loosens tongues and contracts are written on cocktail napkins that decide careers. You've been there. You've played it. Rome just plays dirtier. The fountain outside drips again, plink, plink, plink. You imagine it counting not the minutes but the betrayals. The poet, drunk now, sprawls across his couch and tries to recite lines about Jupiter's eagle, but his voice cracks. He laughs at his own stumble, then leans toward a merchant, his breath sour with figs. The merchant listens, nods, and makes a note on his own tablet. You realize the poet has traded his art for an audience of one, and that audience has coin. Pillow talk doesn't need curtains, it just needs proximity. Another guest emerges, flushed, carrying the smell of incense on his skin. He sits, accepts a platter of oysters, and whispers something into the ear of the man beside him. A slave clears the empty wine cups, and for a moment you wonder how much of this quiet diplomacy the slaves have memorized. They are the stenographers of empire, though no one will admit it. Your own cup wobbles in your hand, You steady it and try to look indifferent, but indifference is a skill you haven't mastered. A senator across the way notices, smiles faintly, then looks back to his companion. You wonder what story your wine-shaking hand will become tomorrow. Perhaps you're already a rumour. The torch nearest the curtain flickers and the shadows deepen. A man's voice, muffled, leaks through the fabric glow. Urgent, not the voice of pleasure but the voice of bargaining. A woman answers, her laugh sharp as broken glass. The curtain flutters, then stills. The negotiation is over. Someone has won. It is creepy, yes, but also absurd. The fate of provinces, the weight of taxes, the movement of legions, all of it could be sealed tonight by who reclines where and whose elbow brushes whose. Rome's empire balanced on cushions that betray you if you lean too far. You almost laugh at the irony, but you swallow it with your wine instead. The lyre plucks another chord. It sounds strained, thin, as if the strings themselves disapprove. You shift your weight, trying not to draw eyes, but they find you anyway. You feel them lock on you, testing whether you will play your part or refuse it. Refusal, is not an option. Even silence can be interpreted. Even stillness is a statement. The fountain keeps time. Plink, plink, plink. You imagine each drop carving another deal into stone. The host, who has said almost nothing all night, finally lifts his cup. The room hushes. He doesn't toast. He doesn't flatter. He just smiles small, calculated, knowing. Then he drinks. The silence holds longer than the sip. When he sets the cup down, the room exhales in unison. That smile, that drink, was a signal. Something has shifted, though you don't yet know what. You lean back, trying to look like you belong in this theatre of whispers and silk. But the cushion shifts again, mocking you, and your wine threatens to spill. You steady it, smile faintly, and pretend the irony doesn't sting. You're sitting in the middle of an empire negotiating itself into and out of existence, and the stage directions are written in bodies, not laws. The curtain stirs once more, waiting for its next bargain. The laughter does not reach you this time. It passes over your couch like smoke from a torch, drifting toward the ceiling, leaving only a faint scorch in the air. You feel it, the room has shifted again. The jokes are still there. The whispers still coil around the rim of wine cups, but something colder slips beneath them, a current as old as the city itself. It begins with the flame. You notice it by accident, the way you notice your own pulse when silence grows too deep. The oil lamp nearest you flickers, guttering low, then sputtering back to life. A few guests glance toward it, but no one says anything. Still, the unease settles in. Everyone in Rome knows the law of fire, especially this fire, the eternal flame that burns for the goddess Vesta, keeper of the hearth, soul of the empire. When the flame falters, so does Rome. Someone murmurs a line from Ritual Extinguish Her, and we are extinguished. The words hang too long, and you realize they are not simply pious, they are warning. The curtain stirs again, but this time what emerges is not a guest. It's a memory, thick as smoke. You see it in your mind as though the villa has projected it onto the walls, a carriage rolling slowly through the forum, wheels creaking under a weight too dreadful to name. The horses are silent, their hooves muffled with cloth. The crowd doesn't cheer, doesn't jeer. They watch in perfect stillness, eyes cast downward, because to meet her gaze would mean to share her guilt. On the carriage sits a woman, white robes, hair braided, face pale as ash, a vestal virgin, consecrated to the flame, accused of betraying it. No trial by jury, no appeal, no chance to defend herself. Her silence is assumed as confession. The punishment is older than law, older than reason. She must be buried alive. The image sharpens. You see her descend the wooden steps into the earth, a hollow dug beneath the city's skin. She carries a lamp with her, small, trembling, a parody of the great flame she was sworn to protect. Her feet leave prints in the dust. A priest recites words that sound less like blessing and more like bureaucracy. Then the entrance is sealed. Earth pours down, and the lamp's glow dies beneath it. The wine in your cup suddenly tastes of ash. You set it down, but the taste lingers. Around you, The guests recline as though nothing has shifted, but their eyes betray them. They too remember. Rome remembers everything, even the stories it pretends not to tell. The flame flickers again. A whisper ripples down the couches. Keep it burning. A senator clears his throat, forcing a laugh, but no one joins him. For a few breaths, the villa feels like a tomb, sealed, suffocating. You imagine the soil pressing against your chest, the air thinning, the flame beside you shrinking until only smoke remains. You wonder if the slaves hear it differently. Perhaps they think of her not as a sinner but as Cain, another life consumed by silence. Perhaps they measure their own days against hers, how many secrets buried, how many truths entombed. The dread in your chest is heavy, but beneath it pulses something else: empathy. She was a symbol, yes, but also a girl, caught in laws written by men who would never be judged the same way. You picture her face again, pale and resolute, and for an instant you want to reach for her hand, though centuries stand between you. The host lifts his cup at last, breaking the spell. To the flame, he says simply. The guests echo him, voices uneven. They drink, you drink. The wine burns as though swallowing fire itself. The curtain lies flat again, innocent, as if it had not just conjured a ghost to haunt the room. And yet, the memory lingers. You keep seeing the soil falling, the lamp dying, the silence pressing in. You know you will see it again when you close your eyes tonight. The fountain outside plinks, indifferent. But this time each drop sounds like dirt falling onto wood. Plink, plink, plink. The sound of burial disguised as water. You draw your toga tighter around your shoulders, though the room is warm. The dread is no longer about spilled wine or misplaced glances. It is about Rome itself, how it survives by feeding on its own, how it sanctifies cruelty and calls it tradition. The irony is almost unbearable. The empire that claims to burn eternal must bury its daughters alive to keep the fire lit. You look again at the lamp near you. Its flame steadies, small but stubborn. You exhale slowly, trying to match its rhythm, trying to convince yourself that survival is sometimes nothing more than endurance. The curtain stirs one last time. Only linen, only air. But you think of her again, beneath the earth, and the villa feels colder, as if the ghost has not left but settled among the couches to listen. The host has been quiet all evening. He has let the couches, the curtains, the food, and the performers do the work of shaping the night. He has reclined like a statue, letting everyone else orbit him, a fixed point of gravity wrapped in linen. And yet, every guest has been waiting for him, for his signal, for the one gesture that matters more than all the others. It arrives as suddenly as a crack of thunder, though no sound breaks the silence. Only a smile. It begins at the corner of his mouth, subtle enough to be mistaken for the twitch of a man remembering something private. But the room catches it instantly. The torches seem to flare in agreement. The lyre plucks a nervous string and stops. Every guest stills. You feel it in your spine, the pivot point, the fulcrum on which the rest of the night will tilt. The smile widens, small but certain, and the air shifts. Conversation resumes, but not the same. Voices pitch lower, lean closer. Cups are lifted faster. Cushions creak as bodies draw nearer. The host has not said a word, yet everything in the villa has changed colour. It is suspense without a script. Everyone seems to know what to do, except you. A senator clears his throat and tells a joke that isn't funny, but laughter follows anyway. A general leans back, stretching one arm behind a younger man, as though ownership can be claimed with a gesture. A woman tips her wine into her lap deliberately, laughing at her own clumsiness, and within moments she's escorted behind a curtain by someone else's husband. None of it was happening before, all of it is happening now. The host lifts his cup not to toast, not to drink, but simply to remind the room that he holds it. The wine trembles in the torchlight, thick and red, reflecting every gaze that dares to meet his. He lowers the cup without drinking. The message is clear, he doesn't need to consume anything. The room consumes itself for him. You realize then what power looks like in Rome. Not a raised voice, not a command, not even a decree written into law. It looks like a smile that bends the atmosphere around it, a smile that pulls secrets out of curtains, that turns whispers into contracts. that sets appetites loose while never needing to indulge. Your own couch betrays you again with a sigh as you shift. The sound is louder than you want. Eyes dart in your direction, only for a moment, but enough. You hold your breath, waiting to see if the host's smile will widen toward you, pin you, draw you into its gravity. It doesn't. Relief mixes with disappointment. You're beneath his notice for now. The fountain outside drips. Plink, plink, plink. And for the first time it sounds less like a countdown and more like applause. Quiet, patient applause, as though even water recognizes the performance unfolding. The lyre resumes, hesitant at first, then steadier. Its strings sound thinner, tauter, as though the musician too is straining under the weight of that smile. The melody bends into suspense. You taste iron in your mouth, though you're not bleeding. A senator nearby raises his own cup, grinning wide, desperate to echo the host's charm. His smile is too big, his laugh too loud. The room tolerates him but doesn't follow. He drinks too quickly, coughs into his sleeve, and suddenly the laughter dies. One look from the host no change in expression, just the faintest narrowing of eyes, and the senator shrinks back, chastened. The lesson is clear. Smiles are weapons. Some draw you in, others cut you down. Another guest seizes the opportunity, whispering into the ear of his neighbour. The whisper is brief, sharp, surgical. The neighbour nods, and just like that, something shifts between them. You don't know what, but you feel the weight of it, a decision sealed in the shadow of a grin. It reminds you too much of things you've seen, the way a CEO at a gala lifts his glass at the right moment, and suddenly a dozen conversations change subject. The way a manager smiles in a meeting and half the room rewords their pitches. The way entire strategies hinge on a glance, a smirk, a pause that says, "I know more than you." Rome hasn't invented this game. It has perfected it. The host finally laughs, a low sound, almost inaudible, but sharp as a blade dragged across stone. The couches creak as people shift closer together. Deals are whispered, bargains hinted. The slaves adjust the platters, their eyes lowered. But you know they record every detail. The villa hums like a hive awakened. You stare at your cup, watching the wine quiver, feeling your own pulse match its tremor. You want to laugh, to join the current, to prove you're fluent in this silent language. But you know your laugh would come out wrong, too eager, too late. So you sip instead, swallowing smoke and plum, letting the fire coat your throat until you feel steadier. The smile still hangs on the host's face, carved there like marble. You wonder if he ever has to move it, or if Rome moves enough for him. The fountain drips again. Plink, plink, plink. You imagine the sound as footsteps approaching a stage. The curtain stirs, sensing its cue. Another act waits. But this one belongs less to dancers and more to conspirators. The host has given permission without speaking, and the villa answers with motion. You lean back carefully, careful not to disturb the balance of your cushion. The air feels tighter, charged, as though lightning has coiled itself into the room. Everyone waits, everyone performs, everyone pretends not to notice how their eyes flick always, toward the man with the smile. You exhale. The wine warms you, but the dread lingers, because if one smile can turn the villa into this, you wonder what will happen when it fades. The collapse doesn't happen all at once. It begins with a laugh that lands too loud, then another that lingers too long, wobbling on the air like a platter carried by hands no longer steady. The carefully balanced mask of elegance, each sip, each glance rehearsed tilts off its hinge. You feel it before you see it. The fountain outside plinks harder, as though even the water has decided to mock the room. At first, the guests ignore it. They sip their wine more carefully, recline deeper into cushions, pretend the lyre's uneasy strings are enough to smooth over the cracks. But then a senator tips his cup too far and spills crimson across his toga. The stain blooms instantly, spreading like a wound, dripping toward the mosaic floor. He doesn't hide it. He throws back his head and laughs, reckless, daring anyone to call it what it is. The laugh infects the room. Within breaths, the sound spreads, until no one is sure who is laughing at whom. The couches groan under shifting bodies. A guest adjusts his toga, the knot unravels, and the fabric slides from his shoulder. His bare chest glows in the torchlight. No gasps, no murmurs. Instead, another man mimics him, tugging his own linen loose. A third makes a game of it, kicking off his sandals with deliberate flair. The slap of leather on marble echoes like applause. Soon the floor is littered with footwear pairs, singles, left behind like battlefield casualties. The irony is almost too sharp to swallow. An hour ago, every posture was careful choreography, every swallow of wine judged like an Olympic sport. Now sandals scatter, togas sag, cushions sag deeper with bodies sprawling in carelessness. It should feel like disgrace. Instead, it feels like liberation that teeters into madness. The poet is the first to leap. He clambers onto a couch, his toga bunched around his knees, and begins reciting verses. But the words tangle with his drunken tongue, spilling into nonsense. The crowd claps anyway, half mocking, half exalting him as if chaos itself were the new lyric. A general hurls a grape across the room. It bursts against a senator's chest, leaving a purple bruise on white linen. The senator roars with laughter and hurls bread back. A volley follows fruit, crumbs, even a honey cake flying like a comet through the smoke. You shift uneasily, but your couch betrays you once more, sighing at the movement. This time the sound is drowned out by the din. The torches flicker with the air, shadows stretching into grotesque shapes across the mosaic gods, who now look as though they, too, are laughing. Then comes the statue. A man, drunk enough to forget his own name but not his audience, stumbles toward a marble bust of Minerva. He grips it by the cheeks and kisses it with an earnestness so violent that his lip splits. Blood streaks the white stone, dripping down the goddess's chin. The room howls with approval. Another throws his goblet at the mosaic wall, red splattering across Jupiter's beard, turning him into a drunk like the rest of them. A woman rips a loaf of bread into obscene shapes, holds the fragments out to her neighbour. He eats them from her palm, slow, eyes locked on hers, and the room claps at the performance. The curtain swells and swallows whole groups now, linen sagging under the weight of multiple figures disappearing at once. It doesn't close cleanly, it hangs crooked, revealing shadows twisting in the half-light. No one cares about pretense anymore. The fountain plinks louder. Plink, plink, plink. The sound, so patient before, now rings like mockery. Even the water seems drunk, laughing with each drop. The dread in you grows, but it's laced with thrill. You can't look away. This is Rome without masks, and yet it feels more truthful than the rehearsed politeness before. Vulgar, violent, absurdities, but honest in its ugliness. You sip your wine to steady yourself, but the burn only joins the fire spreading through the room. You feel yourself smiling despite it all. The host chooses that moment to laugh, low, deliberate. The sound rolls across the couches like thunder. Instantly, the chaos bends toward him. The sandals, the laughter, the torn bread all orbit his grin. Even in collapse, he rules. A senator stumbles near him, toga half undone, sandals lost. The host extends a hand not to lift him, but to mark him, as though laying claim. The man bows, half willingly, half instinctively, and the room takes note. The smile of the host remains the Empire's true law. The torches gutter suddenly. For an instant, the room drowns in shadow. The only light left is the faint gleam of spilled wine on marble, catching fire like blood. When the flames recover, the sight is grotesque bodies sprawled like discarded dolls, sandals crooked, linens tangled, faces painted with sweat. It should look like ruin. Instead, it looks like ritual. You grip your cup tighter, nails biting the clay. The couch leans, pulling you toward the madness, daring you to join. You resist, but your eyes betray you. They trace the scattered sandals, the gleaming shoulders, the red-streaked marble. It is obscene, and yet you are caught by it. The Empire is showing its true face, and the face is both monstrous and magnetic. A senator climbs onto a table and declares himself Mars reborn, waving a chicken leg like a sword. People cheer. A slave clears the fallen bones around his feet, blank-eyed, as if this has all happened before. You realize with a chill that it probably has. The villa has seen masks fall countless times. This is the real Rome, repeated until it becomes its own tradition. You close your eyes, but the images burn brighter in the dark. Sandals scattered like battlefield wreckage, a poet shouting nonsense, a goddess kissed bloody, a curtain hanging askew like a torn veil between worlds. You open your eyes again, but nothing changes. The fountain drips plink, plink, plink. It no longer feels like water. It sounds like time cracking, like something ancient warning you that even this chaos is a performance, one Rome has mastered. The masks have fallen, and you realize with a jolt that no one in the room intends to put them back on. The chaos never really ends, only mutates. What begins as sandals abandoned and togas unraveling finds a new rhythm, quieter but sharper, like blades sliding under the tablecloth. The lyre twangs once, then stills. The laughter ebbs. What fills the room now is something heavier negotiation disguised as drunken chatter. You see it first in the corner, where a senator leans close to a general, their mouths nearly touching. Their voices low enough that only the fountain seems to hear. A grape rolls from the platter between them. The general picks it up, twirls it between his fingers, then drops it into the senator's cup. They both laugh, but the laughter carries weight. By tomorrow, legions will move, not because of orders written in the Senate, not because of maps drawn by surveyors, but because of a grape passed hand to hand. Another bargain emerges across the room. A poet, still flushed from shouting nonsense verses, scribbles on a wax tablet with a stylus so blunt it tears the surface. He dips the stylus into spilled wine, tracing red over the grooves as if blood were ink. His neighbour leans in, nodding, pressing his thumb into the wet wax as a seal. A contract born of fruit and fermentation, no parchment required. The host watches, smiling faintly, but does nothing to interrupt. His silence is permission. The villa itself becomes the ledger, each whisper a clause, each laugh an amendment. The torchlight flickers over cushions, over bare shoulders, over sandals abandoned like witnesses who can't testify. You sip your wine cautiously, the liquid tasting of smoke and secrets. When you lower the cup, you notice your fingers are stained. Dark red pools where your thumb rests, smudging onto the clay, smearing as you set it down. It looks like ink. It looks like evidence. The motif takes root. Wine here doesn't only stain fabric. It rewrites history. Rivulets on wax tablets, smears across scrolls, splatters on the mosaics, Rome's policies drafted in liquor more than law. You think of your own world, deals scribbled on cocktail napkins at hotel bars, contracts agreed upon with a nod in the back of a conference room, venture capital sealed over whiskey at midnight. The parallels sting because they fit too well. What is a grape traded for an army but a handshake exchanged for someone's livelihood? Rome is no stranger. Rome is just less embarrassed. The fountain plinks. Plink, plink, plink. Each drop feels like a signature echoing against stone. The curtain stirs again, releasing two figures who emerge flushed and laughing. One adjusts his toga, the other holds a wax tablet tucked under his arm. They return not just with sweat, but with terms, their bargain hidden in the folds of linen. The crowd doesn't look away. They smirk, they nod, they file it away. Everyone knows that the most binding contracts are signed with bodies first, ink second, at your side. A merchant haggles with a minor noble. They don't lower their voices. They let the words tumble out amid the noise so no one notices which syllables matter. Grain for horses, horses for coin, coin for a favour whispered in the ear of someone who reclines closer to the emperor than most. You realise that you could stop listening, that the meaning is too slippery anyway. But you keep listening, because survival here is not about speaking, it's about remembering. A slave passes, clearing goblets, and you see him glance at the wax tablet still wet with wine. His expression doesn't shift, but you know he's catalogued it. The walls of this villa breathe through these silent witnesses, and tonight the walls will remember a dozen bargains no one else will dare record. Someone shouts for more figs. A tray appears, glistening with fruit. Another senator bites one in half, seeds spraying onto the mosaic floor. He laughs, points to the red mess, and says something about the map of Gaul. People chuckle, but the joke isn't a joke. Everyone understands. Territory has just been offered, or traded, or lost, depending on how you interpret a fig splatter. You sip again, slower, tasting not just wine but the weight of decisions being made around you. The liquid burns, and you imagine it leaving stains in your throat the way ink stains parchment. Maybe tomorrow you'll cough up a treaty, or worse, a rumour. The torch nearest you gutters low, then flares, spilling shadows across the wall. In that sudden light you catch the host's face. His smile hasn't changed. It doesn't need to. Deals bloom like mould in his silence. He owns the chaos without lifting a finger. The fountain drips again. Plink, plink, plink. Tonight, grapes are worth battalions. Wine stains carry provinces. A laugh whispered into linen might redraw a border. You lean back carefully, trying not to betray your nerves. The cushion sighs anyway. Someone glances your way, notes the sound, files it like an entry in a ledger. You grip your cup again, holding it steady, though your hand is slick with sweat and wine. Rome writes its history in marble. Yes, but tonight you see the truth. The real ink is red, sticky and sweet. It stains fingers, tongues, and wax tablets. It stains reputations. And it never washes out. The breaking point doesn't come with warning. It comes with a sound so small you almost miss it, stone knocking against stone. A faint scrape beneath the laughter and the whispers. Then, before anyone has time to turn, the statue shudders. Minerva, goddess of wisdom, patron of order, leans a fraction forward as if curious. The goblet that struck her is still rolling on the floor, wine spilling in erratic trails across the mosaic. A senator stumbles after it, half laughing, half snarling, and he swats at the base of the statue as though it were an inconvenient guest. The pedestal groans. Then the goddess falls. She doesn't tumble gently. She crashes. Marble cracks against marble, a shriek that silences the room. Her head strikes first, splitting from the shoulders. The torchlight catches the fissure, gleaming bright, before the whole figure collapses into fragments. Dust leaps into the air. Pieces scatter across the floor. An arm here, a curl of hair there, the owl that once perched on her shoulder shattered into unrecognizable shards. The silence is instant, total. Even the fountain outside seems to pause between drops, as though holding its breath. When the next plink comes, it sounds too loud, obscene in its steadiness. Someone exhales. Another laughs nervously, then swallows it when no one joins. The wine running across the floor has reached the fragments now. Red liquid pools around Minerva's marble face, trickling into the crack of her mouth until it looks like she's bleeding. It is grotesque, absurd, and yet too perfect not to feel like an omen. The guests stare, some with fear, others with awe, others calculating what this accident, or was it an accident, will mean tomorrow. Rome thrives on signs, and signs thrive on interpretation. Was it the goddess punishing them for excess? Was it proof that wisdom itself has abandoned the villa? Or was it simply marble meeting gravity? No one wants to be the first to decide. The host does not move. His smile lingers, thinner now, but present. He lifts his cup, studies the wine as if waiting for it to speak. The torches gutter low, and the shadows of the fragments stretch across the floor, limbs longer in death than in life. You can't look away. The shards gleam like teeth, scattered in a grin too wide to be human. You imagine them clinking together in the dark, whispering. The dread climbs your spine, heavier than wine. Then the whispers begin. Not about politics this time, about curses. A senator mutters that Minerva was always the villa's protector, and now she's broken. A woman hisses that the head fell facing east, toward the forum, which means trouble for the city. Another says nothing, but stares at the red-streaked fragments until her knuckles whiten on her goblet. Your couch shifts under you as you lean forward. It sighs like a conspirator. You place your cup on the low table, careful not to spill, but your hand trembles anyway. You glance at the slaves, wondering if they will clear the mess. They do not move. Their stillness is louder than any scream. They, too, know what omens mean in Rome. The fountain plinks again. Plink, plink, plink. The sound feels like a countdown. The poet, emboldened by drink, steps toward the fragments. He bends, scoops up a shard of marble, and raises it high like a relic. "She lives in us," he declares, slurring. He presses the shard to his lips, kissing it as the earlier drunk had kissed the statue itself. The room gasps. Wine dribbles down his chin, staining the stone redder still. He laughs, throws the fragment down, and it cracks smaller. The silence after is unbearable. No one moves. Even the torches burn straightest, unwilling to flicker. The host finally sets his cup down. The sound of clay on wood echoes like a gavel, and then chaos resumes. Sharper, stranger. A general throws bread at the broken face. Another grinds grapes into the cracks with his sandal. A woman dips her finger into the wine pooled around the shards and smears it across her neck like perfume. They are not repairing the omen, they are doubling it, mocking it, pretending to control it by excess. You cannot tell if it is courage or terror. Maybe both. Rome meets fear not with silence, but with theatre. When the gods fall, the people perform harder. You lean back, heart pounding, but the cushion betrays you, dragging you deeper. The fountain drips faster, or maybe it only feels that way. Plink, plink, plink. Each drop another nail hammered into the coffin of the order. In your world, you've seen contracts collapse, deals ruined by a single misstep. A bad joke at the wrong table, a name forgotten during an introduction, a glass of wine spilled onto the wrong lap. Those moments feel small, yet they unravel fortunes. This is the same, only magnified. Rome will not forget that Minerva fell tonight. Neither will you. The dust still hangs in the air, faint and bitter. You taste it when you breathe. It coats your tongue like chalk. It mixes with the wine until each sip feels gritty, wrong. Someone kneels beside the fragments and begins arranging them into patterns, not restoring, just playing. A broken arm becomes a bridge. A shattered curl of hair becomes a snake. The owl's wing is set upright like a blade. Others laugh, others clap, others whisper about curses louder now, no longer afraid to give them form. The host still smiles. He hasn't stopped smiling, and that, more than the ruin at his feet, terrifies you. Because if he can smile through this, what does it mean? Does he own the omen? Too, does he believe himself above even the gods? The torches flare once more, light flooding back into every corner. The room is brighter now, garish, exposing the shards, the stains, the sandals, the flushed faces. The scene is undeniable. Rome has broken its goddess and laughed in her face. The fountain plinks again, louder, closer, like the drop is falling inside your chest. You stare at the fragments until your eyes ache. Minerva's face lies in two pieces, red-streaked, watching no one and everyone at once. You want to look away, but you can't. You realize with a chill that wisdom isn't gone. Wisdom is shattered, scattered among the guests, sharp edges waiting to cut whoever dares to pick them up. And Rome, drunk and laughing, doesn't care who bleeds. The night never ends cleanly. It bleeds into morning like wine into linen slow, unstoppable, staining everything. The torches die in their sockets, leaving smoke that curls like ghosts against the ceiling. The lyre's final note lingers in memory, not the air. And the fountain, loyal companion, plinks slower now, each drop swollen and heavy, as though even water has a hangover. Sleep doesn't take you, it ambushes, a half-dream, half-fever state where the broken face of Minerva drifts across your vision. Her marble eyes follow you into the dark. You dream of sandals, hundreds of them, clogging stairwells, crunching underfoot, whispering with voices that don't belong to shoes. Remember, they murmur, while the fountain keeps dripping dirt into the burial chamber of your mind. When you wake, light has already crept in, not golden, not triumphant, but grey light that smells of smoke and sweat, the residue of a fire rather than its promise. The villa reeks of spoiled figs, spilled wine soured on marble, and the stale breath of men who spent the night pretending to be gods. The host is already upright. That's the first shock. His toga gleams as if washed in the dawn itself. His sandals match. His hair lies neat, oiled but not greasy, combed but not vain. He glows, impossibly. like a statue that refused to topple. You wonder if he slept at all, or if he simply willed himself into radiance. Power, you realize, is knowing how to look untouched by ruin. The second shock is everyone else. Senators slump sideways, mouths cracked open. Generals groan as though their bones rebel against them. Poets snore with their arms flung across wax tablets that now read like drunken graffiti smeared. Wine blotted, half words carved into oblivion. One man lies collapsed with a honey cake pressed to his cheek. Syrup hardened in his hair, ants already scouting the sugar. Another is curled against Neptune's mosaic, his sweat darkening the tiles into a shadow of himself. Slaves sweep among them quietly, efficient as undertakers. They gather sandals into baskets, pluck bones from cushions, scrape the sticky gloss of spilled honey from marble. They treat the broken fragments of Minerva with the same calm collected, wrapped in linen, placed into a chest, wisdom reduced to storage. You watch their movements and realize Rome survives not because of senators or hosts, but because these silent archivists stitch the empire back together after every night it tears itself apart. The host claps his hands. The sound is brisk, surgical. At once, a tray of honey cakes arrives, fresh, steaming, golden. The smell floats through the smoke like mercy. Guests stir, heads lift, tongues lick cracked lips. A senator sits up, groaning, accepts a cake as if it were medicine. A general takes two. A poet takes one, bites, and immediately begins rewriting his performance from last night as deliberate satire. You take one, too. The crust crumbles into your lap. Syrup clings to your fingers. It is too sweet, cloying, but it soothes the acid in your throat. You chew, and the night recedes. Sugar dulls memory. Honey makes even omens easier to swallow. Damage control unfolds quickly. A senator laughs about Minerva's fall, insisting it was performance art. A general declares the grape trade symbolic, nothing binding. A poet insists his verses were experimental. No one calls anyone else a liar. They all nod, mouths sticky with honey, rewriting memory in real time. The sandals tell another story. They lie in piles, stripped of dignity. A noble reaches into a basket, retrieves two left sandals, and straps them on without shame. Another claims a pair too small, waddles awkwardly, and insists fashion has no rules. Guests hobble, stumble, limp out of the villa mismatched and smiling, as though the imbalance itself were victory. Rome negotiates even footwear into performance. You sip water, not wine. It tastes like metal, like honesty. Too sharp for comfort, but you need it. The fountain plinks outside, plink, plink, plink steadier now, mocking your attempt to wash away the night. The host, of course, radiates control. He moves from couch to couch, clasping hands, praising performances, smoothing disasters into anecdotes. His smile erases memory as surely as the slaves erase stains. He congratulates the senator on his bold toast, the general on his spirited debate, the poet on his courageous recitation. Everyone beams. Everyone lets him write the new version. By the time the guests step outside, last night will be remembered as glorious, not grotesque. You watch the slaves carry Minerva's head, wrapped in linen like a corpse, to some storage chamber. Yesterday she was an omen. Today she is just a repair project. Rome never erases its gods, it shelves them until they're useful again. You think of mornings after in your world, boardrooms with drawn curtains, executives chewing aspirin while rewriting last night's missteps into strategic pivots. Gala hangovers disguised as innovation retreats. Coffee instead of honey cake. But the same desperation sweeten the shame. Rename the omen. Move forward as if nothing cracked. The parallels sting because they fit too easily. Another tray of cakes passes. You take a second, though your stomach resists. Around you, senators nod to each other. Generals exchange mismatched sandals as though sealing new deals. Poets declare that chaos itself is the highest art. Rome edits in real time. The fountain drips louder now. Plink, plink, plink. You realize with a chill that the sound is not washing the night away. It is chiseling it into stone. No matter how much honey coats the memory, someone will remember the cracks, the blood on marble, the sandals abandoned. Rome remembers everything. It just chooses which version to tell. Your couch sighs as you rise. One last betrayal. You straighten your toga, sticky with syrup, sandals not your own, hair damp with sweat. You glance at the host. He shines. You look at the others. They grin, crooked but convincing. And you know, the story has already been decided. The villa hums with cleaning and forgetting. The forum outside will soon buzz with rumour, half-truths, new omens. Rome will laugh. Rome will deny. Rome will go on. You step into the morning. The sun strikes your face like a judgment. You taste honey and ash together. Behind you, the fountain plinks plink, plink, plink. The morning has begun, but the night hasn't left you. Would count 1, 5, 5. BNCEMU, NOMNHVIT, Loon Part 17. Gossip Arena 1, 3001, 400T. Noi Forum D, YLIDNV, Shui NDM Qua, BNTN Yandenchantre, DNMCH, Decline Kangi. Morning spreads across Rome like spilled milk, pale and sour. The villa fades behind you, but the night refuses to stay there. You carry it on your toga, sticky with syrup, in your sandals, mismatched, in your breath, still sharp with smoke and wine, and as you drift toward the forum, you realize the city already knows. Whispers follow you before you even see the crowd. They slither out of doorways, from vendors setting figs on tables, from children fetching water. Did you hear they broke Minerva? They traded gall for grapes. They kissed statues. They bled marble. Each rumour a thread in the tapestry, tangled, contradictory, but unstoppable. By the time you reach the forum, the square hums like a beehive. Not the loud buzz of argument, but the tighter, subtler sound of whispers layered one atop another. Senators stand in knots, their voices hushed but their gestures grand. Merchants lean in with cupped hands. Freedmen linger at the edges, eyes sharp, ears hungrier than stomachs. It should feel ridiculous. These are men who rule provinces, who command armies, and yet they tremble like actors caught without their lines. Every glance becomes interrogation. Did he laugh too loud last night? Did she vanish behind the wrong curtain, who threw the goblet that toppled Minerva, whose sandals are still missing? You walk past a cluster of men pretending to debate taxes. Their words stumble into slips. One says wine instead of wheat. Another says curtain instead of currency. They laugh too hard at their own mistakes, eyes darting, cheeks pink. They cannot keep the night separate from the day. The fountain at the Forum Lager, public, less intimate, plinks louder than the villas ever did. Its drops splash wide, carrying voices farther than intended. You swear it mocks you plink, plink, plink. Every sound like an echo of secrets you thought were buried. The city itself is listening. A senator strides through the crowd, toga immaculate and face set in confidence. But behind him 2 merchants whisper, he kissed the goddess. He kissed Minerva's broken mouth. Another voice counters, no, no, that was the poet. The senator only fed bread to his neighbour. A third insists they all kissed someone or something. By noon the rumour has multiplied into dozens of versions, each worse than the last. You remember the honey cakes, how they softened memory. But here, in the open air, sugar dissolves. Irony replaces it. Anxiety grows legs. A general swears no armies were promised last night, but his rival smirks and says grapes never lie. A merchant insists grain shipments were confirmed, but no one knows whether he is joking. Contracts written in wine look different in the sun. The irony cuts sharp. Rome insists it thrives on law, but the forum today smells more like the villa than the Senate. Deals aren't made with scrolls. They are made with whispers, traded like coins, bartered like sandals. Everyone laughs, but the laughter has teeth. Your anxiety swells because you see yourself in their eyes. You are there. You know which whispers hold truth, which are nonsense, which hide knives, but you can't say. If you speak, you are implicated. If you stay silent, you are suspect. Rome doesn't ask for honesty, it asks for performance. The visual field overwhelms you. People lean too close, hands cupped to mouths. Others dart glances, cataloguing faces. weighing guilt. A senator drops a fig from his basket. It bursts on the stone, red pulp spreading. Someone laughs. Another province lost. The joke spreads in ripples, and by the time it reaches the far side of the square, Gaul itself has been traded for that fruit. You think of your own world morning after a corporate gala, the air thick with speculation. Who was drunk? Who said too much? Which VP whispered the wrong thing in the wrong ear? Careers hinge on stories retold in elevators. Rome simply does it louder. In the open air, under the sun. The fountain plinks again. Plink, plink, plink. You imagine each drop carving another rumour into stone. At the steps of the basilica, a group gathers around the poet from last night. He insists his verses were satire, art misunderstood, but someone interrupts. No. We heard you curse Jupiter himself. Another swears he saw the poet grinding marble dust into his wine. The poet denies, stammers, then laughs, then stammers again. His audience grows. The forum devours weakness faster than honeycakes. A woman passes, her sandals mismatched. She holds her chin high, daring anyone to notice. Of course, everyone notices. Whispers follow in her wake. She left with the wrong husband. She came back with the wrong shoes. She carries the goddess's curse on her feet. She says nothing. She doesn't need to. The sandals speak for her. Your own feet ache in sandals that aren't yours. You feel every glance, every smirk, every whisper that might attach itself to you. You want to melt into the crowd, but the crowd is the danger. The forum is not safer than the villa, it is simply brighter, louder, more merciless. You glance up at the statues ringing the square. They loom silent, their marble faces stern. For a moment you wonder if Minerva's fall has reached them, if they know their sister lies broken in a linen chest. Their shadows stretch long in the morning light, casting bars across the crowd like a cage. The host is nowhere. He does not need to be. His smile still rules, carried in rumour. People repeat his quips, his glances, his silences, turning them into scripture. He doesn't need to defend himself. The city does it for him. You sip water again, though it tastes of copper. The fountain drips plink, 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 and you swear the sound forms words. Who was there? Who remembers? Who will pay? Anxiety gnaws, but irony keeps pace. You can't help but laugh when a senator proclaims he left the villa early, only for his sandals wrong size, wrong pair to betray him. The crowd roars, not cruelly but knowingly. Rome's humour is its blade. You feel it slice, and you know it will cut you too. The whispers grow until they no longer sound like whispers. They are the city's chorus. Minerva is broken. The goddess bled wine. Grapes bought legions. Sandals cursed their owners. None of it is quite true. All of it is true enough. You stand in the middle of it, a reluctant witness, a guilty participant. The villa is behind you, but the forum proves the truth. Rome's real stage is not marble halls or banquet couches. It is gossip. It is rumour. It is the story told in daylight, sharper than any decree, more lasting than any law. The fountain plinks once more, and the crowd erupts in laughter at something you didn't hear. You don't need to. You already know. Last night isn't over. It never ends. It simply changes address. The forum at noon belongs to the moralists. They climb the steps of the basilica with scrolls tucked under their arms, voices sharp and clear against the rumbling crowd. Cloaks straightened, sandals tied properly. At least in daylight they look like the conscience of Rome, or at least its loudest critics. The first declaimer raises his hand. The city, he cries, is drowning in wine, drowning in figs, drowning in the filth of its own appetite. The crowd claps, not because they disagree, but because outrage is entertaining when shouted with conviction. Another moralist unfurls a scroll, its heading written in thick ink, The Decline of Virtue. The parchment shakes with dramatic effect, and you can almost hear the fountain itself plinking along in mock applause. You watch as senators nod solemnly, their lips still sticky with honeycakes from the morning. Generals scowl righteously, though their sandals don't match. The irony is unbearable, and yet Rome revels in it. The speeches continue. One philosopher blames women for the city's decay, waving his hands as if warding off demons. Another blames the gods themselves, claiming Jupiter encourages sin by example. A third declares that Minerva's broken statue is proof that wisdom has fled Rome forever. He holds up a wax tablet smeared with wine, convinced it's evidence of corruption. The smear drips down his hand, staining his scroll. The crowd gasps as though the stain itself proves his point. You stand in the press of bodies, listening, feeling your own anxiety sharpen into something bitterly amused, because you know where these men will be tonight. You saw some of them already behind curtains, near shattered mosaics, wine dripping down their togas. Yet here they are, condemning themselves without flinching. The fountain plinks again. Plink, plink, plink. The sound feels like mockery, a metronome for hypocrisy. As the afternoon stretches, the speeches grow wilder. One moralist shouts that the empire must return to rustic simplicity. Bread, water, discipline, he bellows, pounding his chest. The crowd cheers. An hour later you spot him at a stall, buying oysters with borrowed coin, slurping them down 2 at a time. Another moralist tears at his cloak, swearing he will renounce wealth, women, and wine. The crowd gasps in admiration. That evening you see him being carried, half drowsy, into another villa, his cloak replaced with silk, his hands heavy with rings. He doesn't renounce, he upgrades. The irony is not hidden, it is the joke. Rome thrives on it. You imagine tomorrow's forum filled with new speeches, louder condemnations, fresher scrolls stained with fresher wine. The cycle is its own entertainment, morality written and erased each day like graffiti on a wall. At sunset, the city changes costume. Scrolls roll back up, sandals are retied, cloaks are replaced with togas meant for reclining. The same men who shouted about decline now recline with grapes balanced on their bellies. The same philosophers who thundered about virtue now slip behind curtains, their words as easily discarded as their sandals. You wander back into the villa, or one like it hardly matters which. The setting is the same, torches lit, couches arranged, platters gleaming. The moralists arrive, greeted with applause. Their speeches from the forum are praised as eloquent, necessary, vital, but no one expects them to live by them. Words are a kind of performance. Indulgence is another. Both belong to the same stage. The first platter is carried in, grapes again. A senator lifts one, holds it to the philosopher who hours earlier declared fruit the downfall of Rome. One grape, one army. The senator jokes. The philosopher laughs, eats 2, and wipes his mouth on the scroll still tucked under his arm. The ink smears further, dripping down the parchment like blood. He doesn't notice. Or maybe he does, and that's the point. The fountain plinks in the courtyard. Plink, plink, plink. The moralists ignore it. Their own rhythm is louder laughter, whispers, sandals thudding against marble as they slip off under the couches. You watch a philosopher lean across a cushion, wine staining his beard, and whisper into the ear of a general. The general nods. A bargain is made. Perhaps about provinces, perhaps about soldiers, perhaps about nothing more than who will get the next platter of figs. But it is binding in its own way. The scroll titled The Decline of Virtue lies forgotten on the floor, half buried under crumbs of honey cake. Wine drips onto it from an overturned cup, blurring the words until they are unreadable. A slave steps forward to clean it, then hesitates. Perhaps he knows the scroll is not worth saving. Perhaps he knows hypocrisy is the only virtue Rome protects. The torches flare higher as the night deepens. The speeches of the morning already sound like myths, exaggerated stories told by men who no longer believe their own voices. What matters now is appetite. A senator boasts that he will rebuild Minerva's statue himself. Another counters that he will commission 10 statues, each larger than the last. They laugh, slap each other's backs, and reach for figs carved into obscene shapes. You lean back, watching, torn between disgust and fascination. This is Rome's rhythm: condemn by day, indulge by night. Outrage fuels appetite. Appetite fuels outrage. The cycle feeds itself until no one remembers which came first. In your own world, you've seen this too. The executive who delivers a keynote on austerity, then signs receipts for a $500 dinner. The politician who promises reform, then disappears into the same parties he denounced. The preacher who condemns vice in the morning, then buys it wholesale by evening. Different costumes, same theatre. Rome just stages it better. The fountain plinks again. Plink, plink, plink. You hear the water laugh. You notice one philosopher asleep already, his head resting on his own scroll. The title still visible, The Decline of Virtue. Wine has smeared the ink into illegibility, but the words need no preservation. They will be spoken again tomorrow by him or someone else, louder, fresher, funnier. The scroll is not scripture, it is prop, and you, reclining awkwardly still, feel the dread creep in again, because you realize the empire will never run out of moralists. It will never run out of hypocrites. The two are not opposites. They are partners. Each one depends on the other to make the play believable. The torches sputter, a curtain stirs, a laugh cracks through the air, then softens into a whisper. Tomorrow the forum will thunder again with condemnations. Tonight, sandals lie scattered, and the scroll of virtue lies soaked in wine. Rome survives, not by belief, not by morality, but by the rhythm of hypocrisy. Morning light cuts the city into pieces, sharp angles across columns, shadows slicing down alleys. The villa lies behind you, its chaos folded into silence, its fragments of Minerva wrapped and hidden. Yet as you walk through Rome, the chaos does not fade. It stretches. It multiplies. It reappears in stone and water, as though last night was not an accident but a blueprint. Because here, on the streets, order itself feels like an echo of disorder. The aqueduct arches overhead, impossibly straight, impossibly balanced, carrying water across miles of uneven earth. But stand close, and you see the cracked stones uneven, mortar crumbling, plants pushing through. Perfection from a distance, mess up close, just like the villa, just like Rome. The forum swarms again. The whispers from yesterday are now louder, bolder, repackaged into anecdotes. A senator tells the story of Minerva's fall with a grin, claiming he alone saw the omen clearly. A merchant brags that his sandals mismatched on purpose fashion ahead of its time. A poet swears his slurred verses were satire designed to test the gods. Everyone reframes chaos into meaning, indulgence into destiny, and the city accepts it. Rome thrives on paradox. Its aqueducts are chaos harnessed into straight lines. Its laws are chaos filtered into scrolls. Its streets are chaos beaten flat with stones that wobble anyway. You walk past a bakery, the scent of bread cutting through the stench of yesterday's wine. The baker slaps dough against the counter with a violence that sounds like laughter. He tells a customer that flour shipments might be delayed because of a senator's new agreement. The customer rolls her eyes, pays anyway. Even breakfast has politics in it. You realize that last night's villa was not a hidden world. It was the mirror of this one. The sandals scattered on marble are sandals scattered now across cobbled streets. The wine spilled on mosaics is wine spilled in taverns at noon. The goddess broken in private is a goddess mocked in public. The fountain plinks again, this time from a public basin where women gather with clay jars. The drops strike stone louder than the chatter around it. Plink, plink, plink. The rhythm doesn't change. Rome doesn't forget. Rome builds, and what it builds, strangely, endures. You look up at the aqueduct again, at the arches stacked like triumphs. How did a city so chaotic, so indulgent, so hypocritical, build something that lasts centuries? How did men who kissed statues and traded provinces for grapes also pave roads that will outlive them all? It feels like a paradox only because you want order to come from order. Rome proves otherwise. Order is born from chaos, stability from indulgence, roads from sandals abandoned, laws from whispers drunk with wine. The irony burns your throat harder than the wine did. You stop at a crossroads. Carts rattle by, wheels shrieking on stone. Vendors shout prices for figs, olives, honey. Children chase each other barefoot. The noise should feel like madness. Instead, it feels like rhythm. The chaos is choreographed. Everyone knows their role, even the slaves sweeping dust, even the beggar crying for alms, even the senator haggling for oysters despite his morning speech about virtue. Rome is not embarrassed by this contradiction. It thrives on it. It polishes it into identity. You imagine looking into a mirror and seeing last night reflected sandals strewn, togas fallen, honey cakes soaked in syrup. Then you pull the mirror back and see Rome itself, its arches, its laws, its empire. Same image, different scale. The fountain plinks again. Plink, plink, plink. In its rhythm you hear not judgment but continuity. Rome will drip and drip until even ruin feels like design. And you're reclining awkwardly in couches, stumbling through sandals not your own a part of it. You were witness, but you were also participant. You laughed, you sipped, you survived. Rome has folded you into its story whether you wanted it or not. You pass under the shadow of the aqueduct once more. Water spills overhead, cold and precise. Drops leak through cracks and splash onto your cheek. It feels like the villa following you, like Minerva's fragments raining down from above. You wipe it away and keep walking. Rome never pauses. Rome never apologizes. Rome moves forward, chaos pouring into order, drop by drop. You drift deeper into the city, the forum fading behind you, the aqueduct stretching above like a ribcage of stone. The chaos of last night feels less like a scandal now and more like a parable. Rome doesn't hide its contradictions. It builds with them. The streets are proof. Carts rattle over cobbles uneven as teeth. Merchants shove trays of figs into faces, shouting prices that change depending on who listens. Stray dogs weave between senators, sniffing at their hems. A man argues over the weight of grain while a priest chants blessings 2 stalls away. It should be disorder, but it works. The bread arrives. The prayers are said. The carts keep rolling. Chaos, but it sustains. You pass an archway. Its inscription boasts of conquest, yet its surface is stained with soot, its corners chipped by decades of weather. Still it stands. Like the guests in the villa, cracked but still performing, Rome wears its flaws without shame. A group of boys plays near a fountain, splashing until the water sloshes over the edge. One boy drops a sandal in by accident. The others laugh, jeering, calling him cursed. He retrieves it anyway, straps it back on, water dripping from the leather. You can't help but think of the sandals strewn on marble last night, mismatched, lost, ridiculed. Here, too, the sandals survive, repurposed, walking again. The fountain plinks, louder now with children's laughter. Plink, plink, plink. What was omen in the villa becomes rhythm here in the street. You reach the base of the Capitoline Hill, where senators climb toward the temples. Their togas are clean again, their sandals polished. They walk as though last night never happened, but you see the cracks, a man still limping from mismatched shoes, another with wine stains faint against his hem. The hypocrisy is obvious, yet Rome treats it like marble treated cracks fill them, polish them, pretend they are veins of strength. Atop the hill, the temples loom, columns rise, fluted and proud, their weight carried by scaffolding hidden behind. You imagine the workers who patch them at night, replacing stones while the city sleeps. To the eye, the temples are eternal. Up close, they are repairs upon repairs, chaos baked into permanence. This is the mirror. The villa's chaos is not a flaw, but a reflection. Order doesn't erase indulgence, it emerges from it. The drunken bargains, the sandals lost, the goddess broken. These are not mistakes Rome regrets. They are the very processes by which it remakes itself. You sit on the temple steps, letting the marble cool against your palms. The city stretches below roads sprawling, aqueducts slicing the horizon, markets buzzing. It looks ordered from here, a grid, a masterpiece. But you know better. You've seen the cracks. You've walked through the contradictions. You've tasted the wine that doubled as ink, and yet Rome endures. Not in spite of chaos, but because of it. The city is a paradox turned into empire order born from disorder. Law scribbled over indulgence, virtue staged beside hypocrisy. The fountain at the hilltop drips again. Plink, plink, plink. You close your eyes and hear the villa in it laughter. Sandals, Minerva shattering. You open them and see the city arches, roads, aqueducts. Both are Rome. Both survive together. You wonder, with a wry smile, if this is the empire's secret, not discipline, not virtue, but performance. Chaos performed until it looks like order. Disorder repeated until it becomes tradition. A city drunk every night and radiant every morning. The thought unsettles you, but it also explains everything. You stand, brush marble dust from your toga, and step into the streets again. Rome swallows you whole. Somewhere, another villa is already being prepared. Somewhere, more sandals wait to be lost. Somewhere, another statue waits to fall. And tomorrow, another road, another aqueduct, another law will rise from the rubble. Chaos feeds order, order masks chaos, and Rome thrives in the mirror between. The fountain plinks one last time behind you. Plink, plink, plink. You keep walking, carrying the rhythm inside your chest. Night again. Not the Roman night of torches and wine, but your own quiet. Dim, filled with the low hum of whatever world you live in now. The villa fades into shadow. The forum quiets. The sandals lie still at last. And yet you carry them all with you, echoes of a city that never truly rests. You think of the fountain first. Always the fountain. Plink, plink. Plinket's rhythm followed you through couches, curtains, contracts, chaos. Drops marking time like a patient scribe, reminding you that every laugh, every bargain, every stumble was part of a larger pulse. Rome's heart didn't beat like yours. It dripped, steady, inevitable, mocking. And in that dripping, you realized there was survival. Then the sandals, scattered on marble, mismatched in baskets, ridiculed in the forum, soaked by fountains. They were comedy, they were curse, they were currency. Yet somehow they always found feet again. Even the boy who dropped his in the fountain strapped it back on and kept running. Rome didn't discard. It reused. It mismatched. It reframed. Even chaos found new souls. And Minerva, her broken face still hovers in your memory. Marble lips stained red. Fragments gathered in linen. Wisdom boxed away like a household item. An omen in the night. A repair project by morning. Rome's greatest paradox, reverence destroyed and rebuilt. Not out of belief, but out of performance. Even gods became props for the play. You recline now not on a Roman couch, but on your own bed. Pillow cooler, fabric softer, the air less thick. And still you feel the cushion betrayals, the awkward slips, the stares heavy on your shoulders. You sip water, not wine, but the taste still burns with memory. The irony is that you're safer here. You won't lose your career if you sip too quickly. You won't vanish behind curtains. No poet will accuse you of satire. No senator will bargain your home away for a grape. But the dread lingers, softened into reflection, because you recognize the mirror. Your world, too, thrives on contradiction. The morning after spin, the boardroom damage control, the mismatched sandals explained away as fashion. And yet, as your eyes grow heavier, there is comfort, because Rome endured, through chaos, through hypocrisy, through broken statues and sticky honey cakes. It endured. Not perfectly and not virtuously but stubbornly. Stubborn as the fountain drip. You let that drip lull you now. Plink, plink, plink. A rhythm not of panic but of patience. Drops on stone, steady as breath, steady as sleep. The villa is gone. The forum is silent. The sandals are still. Minerva sleeps in her chest of linen. The host still smiles somewhere, but you don't need to see it. The empire survives without your witness. Your own breath steadies. Your chest rises and falls. You imagine the fountain sinking with you, plink with inhale, plink with exhale. The chaos fades. The order is simple now, just breath, just rhythm. You realize the lesson Rome leaves behind: order and chaos are not enemies. They are partners. They feed each other, mirror each other, create each other. What feels like collapse one night is structure by morning. What feels like hypocrisy in the forum is survival by evening. Even broken gods are rebuilt. Even mismatched sandals still walk. And so will you. Close your eyes. Let the fountain drip inside your ears. Let the sandals rest by the door. Let the goddess sleep. Tomorrow has its own stories, its own chaos, its own bargains whispered in the dark. But tonight, you have this silence shaped by history. Irony softened into empathy. Dread eased into reflection. Sleep now. Rome will go on without you, and so will you, steadier for having watched, softer for having listened. Plink, plink, plink. The night is yours again, but before sleep takes you fully, one more reflection lingers. You think of the forum gossip, how it grew louder than law, how whispers rewrote decrees before ink ever dried, and you realize your own world is not so different. Meetings that decide less than the hallway chatter after, emails that weigh less than a sideways glance at a bar, contracts meaningless compared to who laughed where and who left with whom. Rome didn't invent hypocrisy, it only staged it better. The sandals whisper again in memory. They remind you that mistakes do not end you. Wrong sizes, wrong pairs, even dropped in fountains they walked again. Your own missteps, the moments you think ruined you, are nothing but mismatched sandals. Wear them anyway. The road will still take you forward. The broken goddess whispers too. She reminds you that wisdom doesn't die when statues fall. It fragments, hides, waits. Sometimes wisdom is broken on purpose so it can be rebuilt stronger, or at least more useful. The memory of her face, red-streaked but enduring, lingers as reassurance even if what you believe shatters. It can be carried, repaired, remembered. And the fountain, always the fountain. The drip that mocked, then soothed, then guided. Its rhythm has followed you across the villa, across the forum, across the city. Now it follows you into your own room. Plink, plink, plink. It has become your clock, your lullaby, your reminder that time flows no matter how chaotic the night. You feel your body soften, heavier now, sinking into the bed as if marble itself holds you. Your breath evens. You're no longer in Rome, no longer in the villa. You're simply here, in the present, but carrying the strange comfort that even chaos can cradle you into rest. If Rome could endure, so can you. If sandals could still walk after the villa, so can you tomorrow. If Minerva could be pieced together, so can your wisdom after a broken night. And if the fountain could drip through centuries steady as breath, so can your heart, steady into sleep. So close your eyes, let history dim its torches, let the city fold itself into silence. Let yourself dissolve into the slow rhythm of water, of time, of sleep. Plink, plink, plink. The night is yours now. Rome can wait until morning.